And we are live. So welcome everyone to another live stream. So this is the OSR tabletop with myself, DM Bloodworth, and I am joined today by two of my longtime players who are current players in my Castles and Crusades campaign. So we have Kelly Foote and Mirador, and probably some others will join in along the way. This is going to be a fairly short live stream. I'm going to try to cut this down to, probably around like 9-ish or so, because I have my wife downstairs by herself. My daughters are out. And so my wife was like, "You're leaving me?" And I was like, "Well, you know what? Just for a little bit." Yeah. So, because she knows I have my game on tomorrow night, and we're all stoked and psyched for our game tomorrow night. And
Indeed.
and then we'll see. I have my Castles and Crusades game that I'm a player in on Friday, so it's going to be a pretty busy week as far as gaming is concerned. Uh, hey, Shadow, how's it going? And Elle, welcome. Um, Shadow, you can hop in here if you want. I put the link in the Discord, so you can hop in if you want to join in. So yeah, what we were going to do is I know Leah wanted to do these like short recaps. Leah's also a player in the group, and she wanted to do these kind of short recaps so that we can, that we can talk about the previous session. And her suggestion was to do it immediately following the session, but I thought that would be a little too much.
Yeah.
So having feedback and echo. Are you from me? Let me make sure I don't have two mics going, because sometimes that happens. So I got my speaker here. You're getting feedback from me, Kelly? Really? Sometimes if there's two microphones going.
Yeah, it's repeating twice. I don't know if it's
Really?
on my end.
Um,
It's like a repeat and an
are you
echo.
getting the same thing, Mirador?
No, I'm not.
No? It might be on your end then.
I'm gonna come in and out, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Let me just double check my audio. And no, you shouldn't be getting it twice from me. It's always iffy sometimes. I can't do anything about the ads, Al. So you are susceptible to ads. All right. Because the way that they restructured the ads for live streams now on this is YouTube. This is on YouTube's end. They say that it's going to go as like a default, and it will tailor ads to the viewer. And so whatever your ad kind of algorithm is what they're going to send to you. So I have some people say that they get like maybe one ad during the time, and others get no ads, and you apparently get 1,000 ads. So I'm not going to disable it. I know you keep on saying you can disable monetization on streams that turn off ads, and but if I disable it on that end, then it doesn't pick up on the other end, and it's just I don't know how you do that thing. So yeah, I know you say that there's a way to do it, but I just can't. I don't know how, and it's an add-on program. So anyway, let's get back to the discussion at hand, which is our last session. So so if you're not aware, I started a new Castles and Crusades campaign. This time, I set it in the Yggsburgh setting, written by Gary Gygax and republished by Troll Lord Games just recently. If you're not aware, Troll Lord Games along with the Gary Gygax estate, has made it come to an agreement that they are going to allow for Trollord Games to begin republishing some of Gary Gygax's work that he did after TSR and obviously prior to his passing, and most of that was through Trollord Games. And like The Hermit was originally, which is a Kickstarter that they just completed, and The Hermit was originally written for Legendary Adventures, and then it was converted to Castles and Crusades. And
I think it's
because
a
of the
3.5 too.
Kickstarter doing as well as it did, it broke the $100,000 mark. The Hermit is also going to be converted to Shadow Dark because Arcane Library and Trollord Games, I guess, came to an agreement to allow The Hermit to be translated to Shadow Dark, which will be really exciting to take a look and see how it goes there. So I have the original. That was, well, the printing that you're going to get from the Kickstarter actually has, it was written both ways in one volume, right? So you had the Legendary Adventure, and then you had the block stats and stuff like that for Castles and Crusades. So I'm guessing the new addition to that will be I guess, a secondary version of it to Shadow Dark. So that would be really cool. So anyway, so I'm going to start doing that with. So I started using that book, which I already received. Started using that book to set up my new Castles and Crusades campaign. And so far, I'm joined by 3 of my players here. So I'll let them start off. I'll just kind of go clockwise. I'll start with Mirador first because he was here first as well. So
Okay.
Mirador, you could just introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about session 1 of our Castles and Crusades campaign.
Well, my moniker is Mirador, but my character's name is Cornelius. For this, he is a druid, and had us meet at the beginning in a cafeteria style, I guess, tavern. And we got introduced by people that we knew in town, and the people that we knew knew a few people, and then somebody else came in that knew a few people, and so we were able to kind of network a little bit.
Yes, yeah, that was something that I did a little differently here. Even though I used the trope of meeting in a tavern, and I started recently arguing that a trope is a trope because it is tried and true. All right, if it wasn't tried and true, it doesn't become a trope. So I don't have a problem with using certain tropes. Although I try to usually put a little twist to that, which I did certainly in my AD&D campaign. And now this time around, what I did was for every character, I took their charisma score and I divided it by 2, basically rounded up. And that was the number of NPC contacts or that they would have. So, or acquaintances or whatever. And then I had them do charisma checks to see if they were a positive, a negative, or simply neutral. And just to the mechanics, just so my players know, because they didn't know exactly what system, how I used that. If on a D20 you rolled below a 5, the person was either an adversary or a rival or even a hatred, depending on the relationship that it was, the NPC class that it was. And then, obviously, if they made their roll, let's say if they're a 12 or higher if it was their primary attribute, or an 18 or higher if it was their secondary attribute, and that would become friendly. And then any friendly, if there was only one friendly, that was automatically someone within the same class as the player character. And if they had only one hatred, that would likewise be within the character class of the, PC as well. Although the hatreds aren't necessarily an actual hatred, it's usually a rivalry of some kind. And so I did that for every single one of, so all 10 players. And then I created a chart that was like a randomized NPC chart from Castles and Crusades NPC Almanac. And if there were any duplicates or matches amongst all of the players, those became that common acquaintance that they had. And that's how I decided to introduce all the players, was through those common connections that they had through NPCs. And that allowed it to kind of flesh it out a little bit. It made the experience, I think, a little bit more interesting, because it's like, hey, you know what? And I will jump to actually Shadow, because his particular acquaintance that he met up was the counter to another player in the group. So when we get to him, I will have him talk specifically about that. But Kelly, let you jump in now.
Hey, I'm Kelly Foot. I've been playing now with you, Richard. What, a little over 2 years, about 2.5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've been a long time gamer. I started Christmas anniversary coming up, 1974. So literally my 50-year anniversary is right around the corner. I started with the original box free book D&D game and played that until first edition AD&D handbook came out in 78, I believe. But yeah, longtime player. Went to my first Gen Con in 79. Got an opportunity to go to work with TSR in early 80s. And when Gary was no longer part of the company, I left. So I'm playing a wizard in Castles and Crusade, and his name is Yarg, which is in homage to Gary. It's his name backwards.
Yeah.
And so it's, in fact, my entire name is his Gary Gygax spelled backwards. So, again, want to say I have a great appreciation of debt to Gary for what he did, 50 years ago when he got all this started. And it's been a lifetime of enjoyment and fun for me. I have met people literally all over the world. I've been to conventions all over the world. I typically go to 8 to 10 conventions a year, and it's a hobby that has also been at certain points of my life an income stream and opportunity. And very thankful, and I appreciate you, Richard, for running a great game. We have a lot of fun. Our conversation, the chats, and just talking about how we have just a general respect and awareness. I mean, we're a bunch of veterans. It's not like we got a bunch of young kids in here. But same time, in my other games I run a game that's full of 14-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And so to me, after 50 years of being in the industry, and then, well, my daughter actually, I started running for her when she was 8 with her friends. It's wonderful to see that young, enthusiastic attitude towards it. Yeah, it's funny, they all try to gravitate to the games that are more, more what I call OSR, or more fun, without the rules forcing certain behavior, because they all want to just relax, have fun, and explore fantasy worlds in their mind as if it were a movie or a book. And so, that's how we approach it here. It's, we don't, I think we're all mature enough and old enough and wise enough. We don't need a bunch of rules to tell us what we can and can't do. But I mean, we just, a very good group. Shadow, you've been with us for a while now. I've enjoyed playing with you, and Mirador, you and I have been playing for over 2 years. So thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. All right. And Shadow, I'll let you chime in.
Howdy, folks. You guys all know me. I've been in the hobby for well over 40 years. I'm working for a couple of companies and play testing and advising and what have you. And Richard invited me to play this game that I played a couple of games of this with him as well. We started a new campaign, and I decided to play what apparently is the most popular profession or class in the hobby, and actually my least favorite. To step out of my comfort zone. I normally play a wizard or something like that, or a thief or whatever, an assassin. And Richard hyped the game quite a bit, so I'm like, okay, well, I got to check it out. It didn't hurt that he sent me a couple of the books a ways back, and I've been trying to go through them. I need to get the monster book because I really as a as a magic user player, I need to know how the magic stuff works so I know what I can shoot for. Even as a fighter, I want to improve my gear, that sort of thing. Sorry for the noise, guys. And see what's out there and how this game differs from my all-time favorite fantasy game, which is D&D. It's actually Arduin, but I played more D&D, AD&D, because that's what's out there. Most people don't know what the heck Arduin is, but that's going to change real soon here. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun, even though I almost did nothing in the game because my character was doing something else. As Richard said, I was talking to the local tax collector, trying to smooth things over with our fellow who's got a rivalry with him. And I figured I could do some good, in the long term for our buddy. And in doing so, I missed out on the adventure, but that's okay because I didn't want to try to force it. There's already almost 10 players or 10 characters in the group,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
If they can't make do without another fighter, we're in for a world of hurt, and I didn't want to metagame it, It's like, well, get me in there. It's like, no, I'm cool. I can sit by and see how they do, and pretend like I don't know what's going on. Although I think they could have benefited from my sword arm, but next time I'll get in there and hopefully not roll a devastating fumble, which we have seen more than a fair share of those, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It didn't take long to make up another a character, to make up another one pretty quick, and I'm not going to get too attached to them because I've seen how quickly they can go down, which I like because it's reminiscent of the old days. It took a lot of play to get a character to second, third, and higher levels without crits. So the crits and fumbles are gonna make it a lot more challenging, which is not necessarily my cup of tea. I usually find the low hit points at first level more than enough to keep everybody on their toes, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. And one of the things, talking about, crits and critical hits and fumbles and instant death. I did notice, so let's give the full background to that for the viewers. So they were at that point 9 player characters, and they were going into a warehouse. And they were really supposed to be just investigating what was going on because there were some disappearances along the wharves and the docks and the marinas and such. And so there was a mysterious barge that was there 2 days prior to, and then it disappeared. And there's the harbor master or the wharf master was. He wasn't hiring them to investigate it, but he said, I'm not going to stand in your way if you're looking to do that. And, but if you do find any kind of wrongdoing, then I'll pay you out of the fact that he would void the rental that the bad guys had already paid forward, for the week or so. And so they went there in large number. And as Shadow mentioned, he actually stayed behind in the tavern, trying to either distract or just defuse the issue with the tax collector who was going after another one of the player characters, and that could have really been an issue if that went to blows at that point. And there, even though he was not in the action at the time, like I've always tried to impress that the world just keeps on moving forward. So what Shadow was doing with his character, with the other NPC, even though not in the direct action, is still going to have some kind of an impact. All right, and so and that will be revealed tomorrow night and such. So we'll see the benefits of that action taking place. But the so anyway, they go into the warehouse at some point. They have 3 members are up on the roof looking on down, and actually, as a matter of fact, I can kind of share a screen, or at least attempt to. So I got to bring it up first, but I am going to attempt to bring this up as quickly as I can. And that way the viewers can actually see what we're looking at. And let's see. All right, we can clear that. Clear this. I'll be right with you. And no, I want to close that. There we go. He's not actually quite there yet. All right. So I'm going to share a screen real quick, and then I can kind of walk you through what was going on. So let's see. Share. Present. Share screen. And here we go. Okay. So here is let me close this out. So this is the warehouse that they were checking out, and you can see they were facing off against these various ruffians, and you can see the ruffians. This one was already injured before he was killed. He was they had 4 hit points apiece. Just level 1 ruffians, or 1 HD ruffians, just normal standard humans. And I moved the ones that were out of here, but this is where, and there was 1 cleric that they were fighting, and they had been attacked. There was 3 of them up on the roof, and the ruffians down at the bottom. There was 3 of them at the time. They started throwing their clubs, up at them, and 2 of them actually fumbled on their attack rolls, and 2 of the ruffians were actually killed by the shattering of glass and just a critical fumbles that they had. And then the rest of the party then kind of started to engage them at this other door entrance. The 3 that were above, they dropped down to these casks down on here, and then they engaged these other ruffians down here. At this front door over here, where you can see the party, they engaged 2 other ruffians and the cleric, an evil cleric that they were fighting. And it was 2 ruffians that were inside this room. And I moved their characters out of the way, who managed to, they engaged the thief, which I don't see on the board right now, Alistair. So they engaged Alistair in this room, and Alistair fumbled and ended up impaling himself on his own weapon and killing himself. Now, let me bring Leah in. Hello, Leah.
Hey, Leah.
So at the time, when we're looking at it, and I realized, or at least I started thinking there isn't a system shock check in Castles and Crusades like there is in AD&D First Edition, and so I don't like it to really come down to just two bad die rolls. All right, because that's how the system works with the system shock check. That's a system shock. I'm sorry, the fumble table. If you roll a natural one on a d20, that's a fumble. Then you roll on the critical fumble chart, and if you roll a 20, then that's an instant death. And that's exactly what happened. The player Tim rolled a 1 followed by a 20. So the rules of the game do not include any kind of a check to prevent that from happening, right? So what I decided was I said, you know what, I'm going to let you make a Constitution check with a challenge level of 3, which means that you would subtract 3 from your roll. Now you're applying your level, so you'll get a +1 for your level being a first level character. Any pluses that you get from your Constitution modifier, if you have one, and then if Constitution is your prime, then you really only need to beat a 12. So it's not a terribly hard roll to make, and yet, he failed it, and so his character was killed, and Tim immediately went into the process of making a new character, and so as the rest of the party continued to fight off with these the cleric and a couple more ruffians left behind, they eventually cleared the way and killed the rest. And Kelly, I recall, they cast 2 spells actually on these 2 that are outside of the warehouse itself. Let's see how I get there. I'm trying to figure out how to get there. So these 2 over here that you can see, they are both entangled. So Cornelius entangled them, correct, Cornelius?
Yep, I did.
Yes. And then Yarg had put them both to sleep, and so they were both entangled. Then Cornelius removed the entangle so that they could just finish them off, because
I think we took them as prisoners back for proof.
Oh, that's correct. That's right. That's right. You thought about taking.
Yeah, we should get you back. Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to take them back. You're correct. So anyway, that was the big challenge that they were facing, and I will let Leah jump in on this since she hasn't, and I'm going to stop sharing this. So hello, Leah. How's it going?
Let me unmute. I'm doing pretty good. I had in another game, in a 3.5 game, I had one of my favorite characters die this past time, so I'm really feeling that. But it definitely has the old role-playing vibe to it.
Yeah, I know. We eventually had like an interesting discussion on Discord. Several people on my Discord channel started talking about that, and I'm actually going to do a follow-up video on the issue of why I think that you should use critical hit tables and fumbles, and even allow for an instant death situation. But looking over the rules of Castles and Crusades, the higher your level goes, the more difficult it is for you to actually be killed instantly. So it does have a natural way of it never quite goes to obviously 0 chance, but I think it's important to always have some kind of a chance that you can be instantly killed, and by either by yourself, by your own fumbling, or by by some schlub. A peasant with a pitchfork can kill can instantly kill in a 1/400th chance. Can instantly kill anybody. All right, so it's it's always going to be a possibility. I did the math. I actually scoped around and saw exactly what is the actual odds, and the odds of rolling a 1 followed by a 20 is 1 in 400. All right, so you're talking about a what's that? A 1/4% chance of that actually happening.
And
So,
now that you've added this third variable, that's going to increase it quite a bit, I would think.
say again?
Yeah.
Well, you've added a third variable. Now you've said now we're going to get
Let's
a
say it's-
contract.
Correct.
That's
Yeah,
going to
then you
add
get
another variable that's going to significantly
right.
reduce the amount.
Yeah, and that one is very much a variable because it really depends on if it's your prime and what level you are and such. And like I said, it's going to become a little bit more and more difficult for you to be instantly killed by anything, but it's still always going to be there, and I think that's important. As I've been doing a series of videos talking about character creation in Castles and Crusades, and it literally takes 10 minutes to make a new character up, and that's it. Now, like I said, I'm going to go into much more detail in tomorrow's video talking about that whole issue. But overall, I really liked we had. Well, Tim is a returning player, so Tim was originally started with us, and he was with us for the first 4 sessions of our AD&D campaign. So he's a returning player, and then we have 2 new players in the group. So it was good to have some new people come in. 2 or 3? No, we have 3 new players because we have
Yeah,
the
I was
thinking
OGGM.
so.
Yeah, we have the OGGM and then 2 other new players to the group. Should bring up my Discord as well here. So let's see.
Well, the barbarian's new.
Yes, the barbarian is
I don't have
new.
his name memorized yet.
Yeah. That's why I made that graphic, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you know what? It's very easy for me to go back to. Well, I shouldn't say very easy. Nothing when you're switching screens is very easy in this. So here I can share this here, and this was actually the thumbnail for this live stream. So I will share this with everyone, and let's do share, present, and screen share, and now we're going to go here. Okay, so everyone should be able to see this clearly now.
Yeah.
So this is how I'm going to do each of our recaps, right? I'm going to show what player characters were there at the time of of the session, and of course we will keep track of those of us who have fallen. And so Alistair the thief has fallen. He's played by Tim. Then we have Bill the fighter. He is a new player in the group. We have
Bill is Shadow. Bill is
Mac
Shadow.
Lamoille. Mac Lamoille is a new player to the group, and Oswald is actually the OGGM. He played a little bit in our in my very, very short CNC campaign. So he is technically
He's
a third new character. Yes, and he's playing the same character. Well, he ported him over, and then Ragnar is a new player as well. So actually, we have quite a few new players to the group.
I'm not new. What are you talking about?
Well, no, you're not new. I didn't say you were new.
Well, you said Bill was new.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. See, and is it Bill or Ben? Because I got confused.
It's Bill. Ben, I changed it because you said it was too short. So it's actually Bastard Bill for more than just one reason.
All right. So,
I had to switch headsets. Can you still hear me?
Sure.
Can I still do what?
I had to change headsets. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
We can hear.
Okay, so anyway, so this is the player party for the first session. So as you can see, we had 10 player characters, a little bit heavy on fighters. So there's a lot of combat prowess in this group here. We lost our only thief, and now we're replacing the thief with another fighter. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
We don't need to find traps. We just run through them.
Yeah. You just you break out the universal key, which is hopefully somebody
Crowbar?
has a heavy mace. That's good for breaking doors down.
Crowbar or hammer?
Yes. So essentially that's kind of where we left off. Like the party went back to the wharf master, and they started showing some evidence of this wrongdoing. He gave them each 20 gold pieces each. Ultimately, what their goal is to get into Yggsburgh, which is the major town of the region. It is a walled town. Every once in a while I'll slip and call it a city. It's really a small city. It's like population of like 20,000 with its immediate surrounding outskirts. So I would call that a city in this particular setting anyway. And it's about to have its 300th year festival. And so, but it's restricted access into the walled city itself. And so they've seen this procession of these, of these nobles and these, affluent merchants and entertainment troops and such, all going inside. And here all they are, lowly first level characters, no one with a background of greater than like middle class or something like that.
That's
but
me.
yeah, it's I think there's only 2 player characters that had a 5 out of a 9 rating, or 0 to 9 rating. So only 2 had a 5. If anyone was a knight that had that initial roll, then you would have had access to it. You would have had a thing in there because you would have been at a 6, even as a first level knight, and you would have been granted access. But they suspected that there might be other ways to get in, because they saw people showing these scrolls to enter in, and they saw people giving what they assumed to be large bribes in order to get in as well. And so that's why they went to a tavern that they knew of, a local tavern. Certainly not seedy, but definitely low key, a lower social tier. That's another unique thing about this setting, is that the Yggsburgh has its own social caste system that that's an interesting thing to play around, and we're going to go into much more detail as the players bring their characters and interweave them into the society, both outside of Yggsburgh, within its outskirts, and then eventually, I'm assuming that they will eventually work their way to get inside, and so that's what they're really looking forward to doing, is really just becoming a part of the Yggsburgh society, based on their interactions and based on their choices along the way, and then how the society itself kind of views them and begins to view them. Go ahead, Leah.
What we did could have been enough to get us banished from the area if we hadn't found the evidence.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. If they because there was some damage done to the place. even though really they did it. The ruffians inside broke the glass and broke the skylighting framework and
And
everything.
then killed themselves when it came down.
Yes,
Exactly. Absolutely fell on their clubs.
yeah, and then I think, well, yeah, you guys didn't pick any locks. You did manage didn't manage to pick any of the locks, so you had to break things once you were inside. So that was the other thing. So you did a little bit of damage to the place. But apparently the wharf master is, he gave you your 20 gold pieces a piece.
Well, remember, the
payment.
winner goes to spoil, so we get to tell the story. He wasn't there.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Well, for me, you mentioned our goal, right? Our
Who's that,
initial goal.
Barb?
For me, it's being a magic user who had cash left over after buying what minimal gear I had. I realized I was the only one that had any money, so I was buying everybody's drinks and food,
Yeah.
and I was going to have to pay for
I
everybody's
still had some.
place to stay for the night. So I was, let's go get this money right now. Let's quit taking it out of my pocket. Let's go find some money.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I was
it's
the tax collector quite hammered to
yes.
hopefully
Yeah.
convince him.
So there's going to be that's another thing I liked about this, because this setting, and this is the setting where we're basically working out of, right? So this setting gives the player characters a starting goal that is much, much lower than what they would normally get in Castles and Crusades. So the highest anyone can start off with is 90 gold pieces, and it's impossible for any of the players to start with that unless they actually had to roll a natural 10. No, I'm sorry, they had to roll a 9 or a 10 on the
What did I roll?
and
You remember?
just to get started off of, which no one had.
I had 80.
Yeah, you
So
were
I
the
had
highest.
60.
Like I said, you were the highest
I had
as
80
far as
also.
the background standing was concerned, and then that gets averaged with your lower standing because you're only a first level character, and so it kind of depleted that down. Except for if you were a knight, then it would have only been averaged between like a 6 and a 9, let's say, and that would have been a 7 or an 8, doing the math, right, and that would have gotten you in, yes. So anyway, so as I said, the campaign really did pick up very quickly. So players getting to know each other, their characters starting to integrate fairly well. One of the adventurers, the thief of the party was killed, and we'll see how his new character, Tim's new character, will be integrated into the group, and we'll see how that kind of plays out and everything. One thing I like to do is that I try to make characters' deaths mean something. To a certain extent. Now, losing a character in the first session and everything is kind of it's kind of hard to build that, around that kind of a thing. Especially since that was his very first combat role, so it was it really was just a rough circumstance where your character makes his very first attack and he ends up killing himself. I mean, it's adds a little bit of levity to it, but I think it was.
Well, I find it funny because again, that to me is part of what we talked about, the charm of old school gaming like we're doing.
Yes.
And that's the charm, is the fact that I remember, of all the characters I've had who died, only one that I vividly remember, and that was my first. And I was playing a rogue or a thief, and there's a party of 6 of us, and we go out first level, and the GM, however we end up encountering something, he described it like it was an ogre. We kill it, and he wiped out the entire party with me, and I'm a thief left with 1 hit point. I cut off its head to take it back to town, and I tie it to my belt, and it was a doggone troll, and it bit me and killed me. So the total party TPK. And and of course, at my age, I didn't know really what a troll was anyhow. But I'll never forget that, because again, it just that fear that you can die that easy. And I thought I was the hero. The only one still survived out of 6 of us. And, oh no, I died. So you remember that. And games nowadays are I mean, literally, player characters are more like superheroes than they are like real characters. I
Right.
mean, there's no fear of death. I mean, these people literally run through fire and through walls and whatever, go face down, a big dragon when they're 3rd level type of deal and think that they're heroes. But the old school was a whole lot different, because you died at 0 too. You
Right.
didn't get to go into negatives and all that. So
Yeah. And Castles and Crusades is a little bit more brutal with going into negatives than AD&D First Edition was too. Some of the real negative effects start hitting at a much earlier procession into the negatives. So you start losing attribute scores, once you start hitting those, and it's a permanent loss too. So it's a permanent loss of attribute scores once you get to like -4, -5. At -6, I think you lose like all 3 of your physical attribute scores, like 1 point for all 3. So I mean, it really does start to become, somewhat
up your game.
debilitating, right? And then you're losing limbs at -7, which I believe in AD&D First Edition that doesn't really start happening until 8, and then 9 certainly. And once you're at -9, I mean you're virtually dead at that point, and your career is most likely over as well. In Castles and Crusades, you're definitely missing a limb at that point, and you're definitely you've already lost something like 2 points of strength, 2 points of dexterity, and at least 1, possibly even 2 points of constitution permanently if you go to -9. So it's like, so even if you do recover, your character is definitely going to be ready for retirement, kind of thing, and that really only takes 1 attack that can get you there. So that's a pretty significant issue. Now, like I said, your character becomes an NPC at that point, and then your character is going to become an NPC that the rest of the party is going to know and be able to continue to have contact with going forward. And so, like I said, character death or characters being maimed and having their career come to an end doesn't mean necessarily that their story does. That can continue moving forward. And so it's just something, like I said, I'm going to get into much more detail tomorrow in the video. But what the other thing I really like about the fact that our group coming together, most of you coming over from AD&D campaign, which was a 2-year and 1 month long campaign, is that it is oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button. That all of you are playing a different kind of character than you did from the last 2 years. So my curiosity is going to be like how you're going to end up playing those characters differently. I know, Kelly, you have to go. It's probably like
I'm going to bow out at 3 a.m. here, but
yeah,
it's amazing, guys. We'll
thanks a lot for joining,
night.
Kelly. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep, same time, same bat channel.
Yep. Take care.
All right, later, guys.
So yeah,
And
I'm really looking forward to seeing how each of you are playing a different character, because it's um, so much is tied to like character class and race and everything that the personality is going to be different, and that's where the role playing really comes in. Is that most of us are very experienced players, and so I mean, I could speak for myself when I'll say, like, if I'm coming in as a player, I'll ask the game master, well, what do you need me to play? Because I can play anything, and have fun with it, and I'm sure that we're probably all assuming that we're all have a preference for sure, but willing to play just about anything. But I can go around. So, like, Mirador, what is your favorite class to play?
Well, I previously had played in the previous game. I played a cleric, and I've traditionally played clerics. But this time I'm playing a druid, which is a little bit different, but quite similar. And Leah has left me with some big shoes to fill, as she was an excellent druid in our last campaign. So I'll have to see what I can do to try to make it interesting and a little bit different, but still help us out and hopefully do half as well as she did. She was excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I know you're playing a primal druid, which is going to be a little bit different as well.
No, I'm playing a hun.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's the gnome subclass druid, which
the
is
gnome subclass druid. Yes.
Yeah, if you hadn't said, I would have drawn blank on the name. It's Hundrin, I believe.
Yes.
Like yeah.
And you're playing a gnome for the first, like, which you didn't play prior to.
Well, as my secondary character in the other campaign, I played a gnome.
Yeah.
But yeah, this time it'll be my primary character as a gnome. Yeah.
And so, Leah, you are now playing a
Elven druid or elven ranger. Sorry,
elven ranger. You were a half elven druid for 2 years and 10 months. 2 months, I mean, and now you're a.
Now I've become a full elf.
Yeah. So now you're an elven ranger, and
I was rather happy that there was one place I could shine.
Mm-hmm.
That was when they were trying to get onto the roof, and I just reached out, realized it was stone, and started climbing because rangers can scale.
Yeah.
I felt that was my shining moment.
Yeah. Well, you did drop down onto the barrels and such, and then engaged in combat as well. So
yeah, I had my first kill.
Yeah, you had that's right. You had the first kill. And actually, yeah, I could take a look at my notes really fast, and I put some notes in there. So you actually took some damage. So you took 5 hit points of damage during the fight, which for first level, character is a pretty decent wound to receive. So only 4 of you took damage, and 1 of them killed, and then 3 of you, Oswald, the halfling bard, took 7 hit points of damage. 7 the human monk took 6 points of damage. Pounce, the elven ranger, took 5, and that was it. And the first critical kill by a player character was Ragnir, the half-orc fighter who killed a ruffian with a headshot. Right,
he's one of our new players.
Yeah, he's one of the new players in the group, and he took out. So he was the first crit kill, and I mean, overall the experience was a pretty decent amount of experience, because there was quite a bit of combat done, and there was some decent treasure, mostly gems and such, that were picked up along the way, and the players all gained for their characters like 645 experience points, which is about, on average, about like 1/3 or maybe slightly less than 1/3 of their way to second level, depending on the class. So I think that that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Now, Castles Crusades, the Yggsburgh setting, Gary Gygax has written in additional experience points that can be gained by you just performing your class skills along the way. So clerics will gain for casting healing spells, and magic users for casting their spells and such. And as interesting as it is to say, well, you're going to, earn 25 25 experience points for every spell that you cast per level that you cast, it becomes a very, laborious record keeping, let's put it that way, to see, well, and so even though it doesn't talk about session XP, I did add 100 experience points for the session, kind of assuming, you cast, a few spells here, or you did your actions there and such. And so I'll probably keep on maintaining that rather than tracking individual spell casting and all that kind of a thing.
I wanted to point out that what Shadow's character Bill did, keeping the tax collector there, that gave us an alibi if we needed it.
Yes, and there's going to be, as I said before you came on, Shadow, two things. Shadow stayed through the entire session, even though his character was not in the direct action. But, I'm
not going to just fail. I mean, come on.
No. I'm saying
how many games have we all stood by
he was occupying the tax collector, and that's going to play a role in, what happens, in tomorrow night's game, because he wasn't just off scene, doing nothing. He was off scene doing something that is going to contribute to what happens next. And
Plus,
so
we got the
you didn't want me to put my charisma that high, remember?
I was like, well, I thought initially that you were going to, because initially you said, well, I'm going to go with an assassin, which would have been interesting. And then, but then you said, I didn't get the roles for it. And I'm like looking at it, and we're like, you kind of have decent roles. You do have some decent attributes. You could have certainly.
Yeah, but I was going to lose a point. I was going to lose a point if I ran it out.
Yeah, but it's going to actually work out, fairly well. I think that it'll work out fine, and it's going to help develop that integration amongst the character group. So the adventure party is going to be able to move forward as a unified group a little bit better for that interaction that you engaged with. And and that was a completely random thing that came up. The fact that you had a positive role, with the tax collector, and then Ragnar had the negative, so it worked out good that you were able to separate the two, let's say, because that would have certainly changed the interaction, a totally different direction, if they ended up going to minimally fisticuffs, let's say, with their interaction. So you diffused that, and that certainly changed the direction of what the rest of the adventure party was going to be able to do.
Plus, his wife now knows him as a responsible person who brought her husband home.
Yeah, yes, that's true, because he was he was returned. He was returned. In one piece and home, and so that is also going to play a role in where the story goes next. Tomorrow night. I almost said next week. Tomorrow night. So
Yep.
that will be wrapped up there as well. And so, Mirador, I'll let you chime in a little bit.
Okay. I did enjoy the we tried to sneak into the warehouse, but we didn't have a whole lot of luck. I tried to sneak around back and use a sound spell to distract them, but they weren't having any of that. They were not going to be dissuaded from what they were doing inside, so we had to find another way in. And then, like Leah said, she found a way to get up on top with some of the other characters and look down on them, and they saw us there. They saw them there, and they threw their clubs, and it came crashing back down on them.
Yeah. It was
comical.
Yes, it was. It was definitely comical, and like like was said, it goes both ways, right? So you're going to benefit from, the opponents fumbling, which they tend to do more so than I think you guys tend to do. It's just the luck of the rolls, basically. And again, I mean, I literally rolled a 1 and a 20 twice for them, which was just insane.
Yeah.
How that came up, and then that's exactly what Tim rolled for his character as well. So it was 3 sets of 1s followed by 20s during that one game session, which I've never. We've had a lot of fumbles and a lot of critical hits.
Yeah, but I gotta wonder if that's because we're using a die roller as opposed to using real dice. I've never seen that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah,
with real actual dice.
But in all the time that we were doing AD&D First Edition and using the same die roller, it didn't come up that way. It's
I've had 3 1s in a row.
Say again?
I've had 3 1s come up in a row.
Yes, you had the 3 1s come up in a row, and then we double checked that because that is a glitch with Roll20 sometimes. And if you came up with like a 4th and would say reset and see what it comes up, because that used to be a fairly common glitch with Roll20, is that you could start rolling 1s constantly, and then it just takes a refresh and then it'll reset itself. But no, I think it was just a really, really interesting turn of events that we saw probably a 1 in 10,000 chance, right, or whatever it is. If rolling a 1 followed by a 20 is a 1 in 400 chance, then I can imagine doing that 3 times in a row. Basically is or 3 times in one session. Actually, I was damn close to 3 times in a row that happened. I could go back and double check it, but it's
probably somewhere in the 64,000.
Yeah, it's somewhere. Yeah, it's because it keeps on compounding, right? It's it goes from 1 in 20 to a 1 in 400 to a I guess that's 80 times more. So 400, so 1 in 32,000. Yeah, so we probably witnessed the 1 in 32,000 occurrence there, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, I'm going to be wrapping this up because, like I said earlier on, I want to try to keep these little recaps kind of shorter, and not very much more happened during during that first session. You discovered an antique scroll that is written in in a language that you couldn't decipher just yet. So that's another piece of a puzzle that that you're going to do some investigation into as well to see what that connection is. You've learned of a conspiracy by a at least a group of clerics of of an evil deity named Thorax the Bullhound, which comes out of the aired setting of Castles and Crusades, and his priests are somewhat nihilistic and just looking to create chaos wherever they can, and that's your kind of adventure hook, and your because now that the Wharf Master has seen some inkling of what their plans are, he is going to, that's what justified your going into the warehouse in his mind, and that's why he gave you that reward money, and that is, you believe, is going to allow you to pursue even further now those priests and the goblins that you learned that they smuggled in to the town to help create that chaos. And so that's going to be your next stage if you choose to continue following that. But I think that you're pretty much on board with going in that direction. But once we got everybody there, we'll see what happens with 10 players. We'll see where everyone is looking to go, but it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while for us to learn each other. With our other game, we had been playing together for so long, we were driving pretty well. But last session was a little new because we had 3 or 4 new players. So it'll take us a little while, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it took in the to be fair, it took you about 3 sessions or 4 sessions to come together and gel, and then we had that, it kind of, couple players left, and then it probably took another 3 or 4 sessions, so around session 8 or so, and then you guys were fully gelled again. And it may happen, we may lose player here or there, going forward, and if we do, then we keep the party will get smaller, and eventually it'll solidify and become, as a tight-knit group as it had been. And, hopefully we have a few players in that mix going forward. And, like I said, coming into this, I started looking at campaigns as being things that will last months at least, if not years now. Just based off of the experience that we have as a group, I can see as long as the game system can carry us, and I really do think that Castles and Crusades is a smooth enough system to really carry us. I think it'll be a lot easier in many ways than AD&D First Edition was. So looking forward to that. And I do think the system is solid enough to keep things interesting and keep us moving forward as well. Okay. Anything? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, just for the record, you kind of skipped. I normally play magic users and thieves.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No big deal. But my preferred are actually Elven multi-class, because no one will ever let me run one. In 40 some odd years, I've played like 3, and 2 of them were in playtest / one shot, so they barely count. The other one was a lot of fun, and this game doesn't really support that, but it kind of does. Maybe we'll explore that later on down the road. But that's why I ran the fighter, because I was hoping to get a little bit higher stats, because the elf is going to get the plus minus, or even the half elf plus minus. which would drop me down below, that bonus hit point margin, and getting the extra dex would be, make for a great thief/assassin. Just if you were wondering why I didn't go that route. So I'm running a fighter, which, is kind of fun, but we'll see what happens. I expect, being a fighter, probably not going to last long with the, the way the dice, roll out sometimes. All it takes is one bad
I mean,
roll.
fighters are actually, as far as they have the highest hit die to begin with. They're specialized in their, they have specialization, weapon specialization at first level. If you have a strength modifier on top of that, that's a bonus to both hit and damage.
I can get up to a +5 if we're fighting, depending on what we're fighting, a 4 or 5. I think that's not too shabby at all.
No, not at all. Like if you're, I forget what your strength stat is.
I think it's 16, so it's +2/+2.
So you have a +1. You have a +1 to hit and damage from that. Then you have your weapon specialization, so that will bring it up to, with your specialized weapon. That'll bring it up to a +2/+2, and then you're a fighter, so you're a +3/+2. And that's at every level. You're going to gain that extra +1 basic to hit. So right now you're +3/+2. That's probably as high as anybody in the group. I mean, there's other fighters in the group and everything. I have to double check their stats. I think one of them does have Ragnar. I think has a 17 or possibly even an 18 strength. So
yeah, but he's a half orc, so he gets a +1 to both strength and con. So that's
right.
Hard
so
to get,
he's gonna, he's going to dish out some damage as well. So it'll be good. I mean, with a large party, the other thing that you can consider at this point, and it's just a management issue, is if you do split the party, let's say a group of 10 can split the party and still manage to, manage to do quite a bit separate. And again, that just becomes a management issue for me.
And on those nights, if somebody doesn't show up, we're not more, so inclined to just, wait a week to finish the game.
Yeah. That's the other benefit of having a very large group.
I noticed, with the other game, if one or two people can't make it, the majority still get, have to wait. And I don't know about you, but I want to get as many games in each week as I can. And, if it's only one game a week and I got to go 2 weeks, it's real easy to lose interest or momentum. And it can kind of sort of, begin that death spiral of a campaign if you start missing games, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, no. That's why I've tried to do like every 2 week games, and I just think that playing every week. I mean, you can miss a week once in a while, and I think we averaged
2 weeks in a year the last campaign, and one was only by accident. I thought we were, I thought we had said we weren't going to play, so I missed it. And once I think I was on the radio. I do a radio show, and I think I had to be there. So I think that was the other reason.
Yeah, I think overall in the last campaign, we might have only missed over 2 years, like maybe 5 sessions, maybe. I don't even think that many. Might have been 4 sessions.
I think I only missed 1 session, and that was the night that my father went to the hospital.
Yeah, it was. We really didn't miss that many sessions at all. I think most of them came in the summertime. Most of them were because I was on vacation or whatever. But yeah, and on the few occasions we actually made up the session during the same week.
Yeah,
which we could certainly do as well. This time around, there's always that possibility as well. But all right, I'm going to wrap this up now, and Well, thanks
One
everyone
last
for
thing.
dropping.
Richard,
Go
can
ahead.
you stay on board after you finish the show? I want to
Sure.
ask you something.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up now. So thanks everyone for joining in, and I am
Happy
going to
trail.
end the stream. And we will be playing again tomorrow night, and we will do another live stream recap probably a few days later, not